Hey everybody, it's Paul from Circular Motion. Welcome back. Welcome back to those of you who have come back for more. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. And welcome to any of you who are joining me for the first time. I hope you enjoy it enough to hit like and subscribe down below. As I said in my first video, although I collected records way back in the annals of history, I fell out of love with music and definitely vinyl for quite some time, and I'm just kind of getting back into it now. So this whole video series is about you joining me on my journey, and to that end, one of the things I wanted to do was like a weekly vinyl finds roundup, or a relatively weekly vinyl finds roundup. But obviously I don't know where you are in the world. I'm in England obviously, and we are in the middle of a lockdown, so there's not much scope for getting out and digging around like I used to. Hopefully that'll change in the next sort of 4 weeks or so. So what I thought I'd do for this first kind of vinyl finds video is go back and have a look at some of my top 10 records, second-hand records that I found in 2020. So again, you know, I did buy quite a lot. My collection went from, I started the year, I think I had about 52 records, and I finished the year on about 180, 190. So, and a lot of those were second-hand finds. As I've mentioned before, I like to go into Darlington and go to a shop called the Record Hut, which has a nice selection, varying degrees of quality, but generally, if you're patient and have a good dig about, you can find some gold. Anyway, without much further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, again, if you can hear any heavy breathing, it's not me, it's one of my dogs who just snores when they're asleep. So apologies for that if it's disconcerting. So number 10 rather, I'm going to go from 10 and count backwards, is Mott the Hoople Live. This is, I believe, an original pressing from 1974. It still had the original playbill, which when I first bought it I thought it was quite special, but I've done a little bit of research and these are quite prolific actually, which is a shame. Mott the Hoople were a great band. I think this was really filmed at the peak of their career. They started to tail off quite considerably, quite fast after that. Of course, Mick Ronson played a lot with David Bowie. I was fortunate enough to see Bowie, Ronson and Ian Hunter live at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, which was quite a special moment, because obviously that's never going to happen again. I've seen Ronson and Bowie on the same stage. So yeah, it's a good album. It was in decent condition, so that was quite a bonus. At number 2 we have Dio, Last in Line. Dio, there's not much to be said about Dio. A cracking vocalist. He produced some cracking heavy tunes back in the 80s and early 90s. Sadly also no longer with us. This I think is his second album. This is a 1984 pressing as far as I can tell, so I think it's the original. Some great tracks: We Rock, Last in Line, Evil Eyes and Mystery, and Eat Your Heart Out. I like that one. Again, it's a nice collection of cracking tunes, and Vinny Appice is playing the drums, who, is a decent drummer. His brother Carmine played for Rod Stewart, amongst other things, and Ozzy Osbourne. So yeah, very good. And at number 8 we've got Roger the Engineer by the Yardbirds. Now, this album came out originally in, I think it was 66. I think he only did one studio album. This is a 1983 reissue, so it's got a different coloured cover. I'm not sure, I haven't seen an original copy, so I'm not sure whether all this blurb on the back is relevant to that original release or whether it was updated for this release. Great set of tunes. Notable because I think Jeff Beck, this is the only album Jeff Beck plays on all like the songs right the way through the album. Jeff Beck, of course, is a great guitarist. I was supposed to be going to see him last year. That got put back to this year, and now it's been moved to next year. Supposed to be going to see Jeff Beck with my dad. So hopefully, Jeff's getting on. Hopefully he manages to avoid COVID and we can still sort of make that show. That'll be good. But yeah, cracking album. As you can see up there, it's a mono copy as well. I'm not sure that I should be playing that on a stereo turntable, so if anybody can set me straight, but I've listened to it and it is really good. But you know, if there's something I need to do for mono, if someone could set me straight below, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Okay, at number 7, this is one I was quite excited about. We have the Rolling Stones, Some Girls. Now, obviously, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you, but this is an original pressing and it's got the original cover that was later altered because a few people kicked off about having their likenesses in these holes. Record itself isn't in great condition, quite a lot of mechanical noise on there. I've tried cleaning it up and that noise persists, so, but worth it just for that, you know. It was only a £5, so bargain. Number 6, I've got Young and Rich by The Tubes. Another great album. The Tubes are one of my favourite bands, early Tubes. When we start to get to Completion Backwards and stuff like that, I'm not really a massive fan, but the early stuff is cracking. The first album I bought by them was The Tubes, and I got it from a cutout bin in Woolworths for something like $1.99, and it blew my mind. I was like, wow. Space Babies, White Punks on Dope, What Do You Want From Life, cracking tunes. And so if you get the chance to listen to that record, check it out. But this record is a great album, and it's also notable because it was produced by legendary producer Ken Scott, who, those of you that know will know, he produced Bowie's Hunky Dory, and what an album that is. And this album, obviously the music's maybe not in the same vein and the same class, but the production on this album is really nice. This appears to be an original copy, and it's got the original insert with it. So it's got pictures of the band on one side, and then on the other side it's got some personal liner notes from individual members of the band and a little bit from Ken Scott about how they recorded the album, how he wanted to sort of make sure that there was a lot of definition with the instruments, and so he just gives a little brief rundown about the recording process, which is nice because you don't get that on albums really. So yeah, this is it's even got like a Tube Souvenirs little fan club address there, Mill Valley, California. But yeah, they are a great band. So if you get a chance to catch up with this, check it out. This album is actually, it's in great condition as well. I think I paid about £10 for this, so that was a bonus. Next up, AC/DC, Highway to Hell. You know, there's not a lot to be said about this album. It is a cracker. It's got some fantastic tunes on it. This is an original, from what I can tell, 1979 release. Again, it's not in the best condition, it's decent. I think this is one that I would really want to find an OG copy of, but in a lot better condition, because you know there's quite a lot of mechanical noise on this towards the back end of the album, strangely, and that was something that seems to affect the Some Girls album. It seems to be the back end rather than the first few tracks, but brilliant. So this was another great find for me. The AC/DC were one of the first bands I saw live at the Monsters of Rock Donington festival in 1984. It was my first big gig. Let me see, Crew, Accept, Y&T, Gary Moore, Ozzy, original lineup Van Halen, Pimpin' the 1984 album, which I've listened to audio on YouTube, and it sounds a lot better than I remember it actually, because I remember it being a bit messy. And of course AC/DC were, it was an odd show. There was a lot of stopping and starting, a lot of pauses between bands, but at that point, you know, I knew that this was the genre of music for me overall at that point. So yeah, happy memories. Obviously it was Brian Johnson, not Bon Scott, but happy memories. Moving quickly down the list. Number 4, and this is a band that I didn't really get back in the day. I wasn't really a massive fan, and it wasn't until I went to see them on tour, on the Time Machine tour, with my friend Justin and my dad, that I realised actually I missed out on quite a lot. I've always had a lot of respect for Neil Peart as a drummer. I used to play the drums badly back in the day, but Neil Peart was always, you know, an aspirational drummer. He was always somebody that you wanted to be able to emulate but never could, unless you were really, really good, of course. But anyway, this album I picked up, again, cheap, $9.99 in Record Hut last year, and it is Hemispheres. This is, from what I can tell, a 1978 pressing. It's a mixed album. The first side is up and down a bit. It can be a challenging listen. But what I like about it is, the definition between the instruments. You know, you can hear what's going on. The sound doesn't kind of... Some bands, they'll record something and it just gets, not muddy, but I don't know, things lose something. But with this, you know, bass in particular just really like pings through, the drums ping through, Alex Lifeson's guitar pings through, and Geddy's voice sounds fantastic in this. The second side of the album, you know, we've got Circumstances, which is great, The Trees, which is one of my favourite tracks, and probably one of my all-time favourite tracks, La Villa Strangiato. That track is just brilliant, really. I could listen to that all day long. I've got several different live albums simply because it's got that track on it, and it never ceases to give me goosebumps. So yeah, this is, like I say, this is an original 1978 pressing. Put a new sleeve in there, but it's, you know, it's gatefold. It's in decent nick, and the album, the record itself, is in really decent condition. So I was quite pleased to get that for a tenner, really. So yeah, that's that. So into the top three. This is another artist that I didn't really get back in the day. I had a friend, Carl, who was and still is massively into him, and I like bits and bobs. But now that I've grown older and my tastes have matured, I've really come to appreciate just what an absolute genius this gentleman is. So we've got Chunga's Revenge by the legendary late Frank Zappa. This album is brilliant, and this is, you know, this is one of my best finds. It's a 1973 pressing, and it's Greek according to Discogs. I've done a little bit of research, and it's the record itself is in brilliant condition, and it is amazing. You know, it's probably one of my favourite Zappa albums, along with Hot Rats. But yeah, check it out. This was a real bonus find. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I picked it up and, it's going to be, you know, you think for that price, I think it was 15 quid. You think for that price, is it going to be any good? And you're looking at the record and all, like, and you're just trying, you know, and it's like, well, it looks alright. Will it play alright? And it does. It's immaculate. So, wow. Again, I'm getting all these from the Record Hut in Darlington. If you're ever in and around Darlington, which is in the north of England, check him out. He's got some bargains in there. Number 2. Again, this is this last year, getting back into vinyl has been a big journey for me because it's really expanded my musical horizons. Up until last year, I really only listened to a little bit of hip hop, I'll admit, and a lot of hard rock, heavy metal, thrash metal kind of stuff. So this last year has seen my musical tastes expand considerably, and I went round my friend Justin's house, and you know, you'll be familiar with that tale back in the vinyl tag, and one of the albums he played was a reissue of this, a recent reissue. So it was on my sort of list to get. I was just going to go and buy the reissue, but imagine my absolute joy when I walked into Record Hut and I got this. So it's not only Time Out, but it's also Time Further Out. So this is a double album. So it's got two releases together. I think this was originally released as a double in 1963. However, this, from what I can gather, is a 1976 reissue. And it sounds, I mean, this particularly Time Out, that was recorded in 1959, and the sound is unreal. I mean, the drums sound like they're in the room. Take 5 is just absolutely brilliant. Far More Drums is another track that just, you know, you can hear the timbre of the toms and the decay on everything. It's literally like it's there, you know, it's literally like it's there. So this is, for me, it was a brilliant find, and this is probably one of my most played albums of the last 12 months. So yeah, if you ever get a chance to catch up with this, even if it's a reissue. I mean, I just recently bought this as a picture disc by accident, don't ask, but I've got just Take 5 as a picture disc, which has the artwork on it on both sides, and that sounds decent still, but it doesn't sound 100% as good as this does. So yeah, check it out if you get a chance. And finally, number 1. I know probably you're expecting it to be a Queen record, but it isn't. But if you're thinking, well, if it's not a Queen record, there's only one other record it could be, you'd be right, because it's going to be this copy of Hunky Dory that I found. Now, I've done a bit of digging on this. When I originally tried to find out when it was from, I just looked on the Discogs app on my phone, and I got quite convinced it was a 1980 reissue. However, discovered on Discogs.com, you can do a bit of a more in-depth search. So using the code in the lock groove, you know, in the little run out there, the dead space between the last track and the label, I managed to get the matrix code off that and put it into Discogs.com. Now, I'm pretty certain that, whereas originally I thought it was a 1980 reissue, that this is a 1972 repress, so it's like a year after the original one. And what leads me to believe that is the actual album artwork. It's got this thick border around the top. Underneath this is a sticker, this RCA International. Underneath you can see Victor, and that looks like a lot of the tracks, the albums, because you get like a bit of a selection when you put different numbers into the matrix search box. And this seems to be in 1972. If anyone's got a more surefire way of checking that, I would really appreciate you letting me know down below. And so yeah, this album, along with the Dave Brubeck, has been probably one of my most listened to albums. Both this, I got the reissue, that's really good. This just has that edge. I don't know, it just got a little bit more soul to it, a little bit more life. But it is probably my favourite album. And that is of all time, rather than, you know, just picking out a Queen album in there. This is my most favourite album, I think, of all time at the moment. Ask me again in 6 months, it might be something different. But anyway, so that was it. That was my top 10 finds of 2020, and I hope you enjoyed that. Before I go though, there is one more record, which is not a find from last year. It's something I've just got, and let me get this. So, those of you who tune into Dylan from Noble Records, to his channel, you will be familiar with this, because I don't think you can make more than 6 videos without mentioning this album. And I am grateful to him for his passion for this album. Now, this is My Queen by Gaston. He's always bringing it out when he does these lists, or his heavy rotation it's been in. I think was it in his vinyl tag? I can't quite remember. But anyway, I was on eBay. I just sold my old turntable. I had a little bit of spare cash, so I was just looking on eBay and I saw this. I thought, oh, and it's a reissue. It's not an OG copy, sadly. They're quite rare by all accounts, but this is a Record Store Day reissue. It's limited edition, 1,500 individually numbered copies. This one is number 205, so that was quite good. I got this from JG Windows in Newcastle and their eBay store, and it is brilliant. I think it's one of those albums you're either going to love or not hate, but you're just not going to be as into it as much It's just funky goodness, really groovy grooves. One of my favourite tracks has to be the Collapse song, which is a nearly 10-minute instrumental, just loads of percussion, and it is just a joy to listen to. It's a nice pressing. It's a bit vanilla on the inside, but yeah, if you get a chance to catch up with this album, I highly recommend it. I think it's on Amazon Music for sure. I don't know about Spotify or Apple Music, but it's definitely on Amazon Music. So, you know, if you've got that, give it a listen. Okay, so, and that is it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please hit like and subscribe. That would mean a great deal to me. Leave me a comment, you know, tell me, you know, share some of your finds. That would be absolutely brilliant. And I will see you again soon. Until then, take care.